Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? I am not doing this stream the normal way today, so I'm hoping everything is working. We'll see what the chat says. Some technical difficulties today, which I'll explain to you. Let's see if I can get this up there. Oh, there we go. Oh, there we go. There we got some live video from France. Can everybody hear me okay? Hello, chat. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? People are saying yes. Oh, you heard some audio? Oh, yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah. So, due to an internet outage, which will not be fixed till tomorrow, I am on my laptop at a backup location. I am not in my normal studio. So, things will not look and sound the way they normally do. So if somebody comes in the chat and starts complaining about how it looks in the sound, please tell them that I am on my laptop at a backup location and I am not in the normal studio. I'm sorry, but we have to deal with this today. The internet will not get fixed until tomorrow in the studio. So I will do my best to bring you coverage of this. Hopefully everything at least works. At least everything is working. Hey, thank you to Camus. Camus, that has nothing to do with this stream, though. Camus. Thank you, Camus, but that's got nothing to do with the stream. Let's keep the comments relevant to this topic, Camus. But thank you, Camus. I really appreciate your support. Thanks, by the way, to Knight of Fire. And everything's falling apart here. Everything's falling apart. Thanks, Knight of Fire and Steve Jackson. So I'll do and all of our moderators, thank you to our moderators who are here. We're going to talk about the French election. It's a big election in France. We got Cynthia Moon moderating, Richard Williams, AJ, Ruth Krafasi, Danny James. Still working here. Let me just check a couple things here. One moment here. We also have moderating. Linda Bell can Larry moderate for us on X. Good luck, Duck. I got that fire. Papa Bear moderating. Over there on Facebook, we have moderators like Kay Larry Body, Margaret Riley, Paul Anderson, Ronald Egnor, Christina Neal, all of our moderators over there on Facebook. Thank you. And Desi Des, thanks for your support. All right. So, hey, thanks, Knight of Fire. I appreciate that. So again, I really apologize. It's kind of weird because I'm not in my normal studio and I'm doing this on my laptop and I'm hoping everything works. So I'll do the best I can. So what we are covering, and you can see that is live video there via Reuters. That's live video from France. That's live. So France is having these really important elections today and a week from today. I'm going to have to explain this like 10 times, I know, which is fine, because it can be confusing. So they are having their elections for their lower house of parliament, which is pretty powerful there. And the big question is Macron's centrist party, well, centrist coalition, which has been in control of the legislature for, what was the last one? 2022? Is that when the last legislature? For several years. They are expected to lose a lot of seats. And it's possible that either the far right or the far left could gain control of the legislature. And though, if you're in control of the National Assembly there, you have a huge say in domestic policy. Because like the government is the prime minister comes from whoever's in control of the lower assembly there, and they basically are in charge of domestic policy. Although the president has a lot of power too, but the ones who guide domestic policy are basically the National Assembly, as I understand it. So the question, so again, in recent polling, the far right and far left parties are beating the Macron coalition. So it's not all going to be decided today, but today could give us a really important, it's expected to tell us a lot about who is going to eventually control the legislature over there. And the second round is in a week, and we'll cover the second round too. Okay? So, but we should be finding out a bunch today about what happens. I think there's 577 seats, and to win a seat today, you basically have to win more than 50% of the vote. So a bunch of the seats will not be decided today, but to get into the second round, you have to get at least 12.5% of the vote. And in 1 hour and 24 minutes, the polls will close. And from what I understand, when the polls close, we should pretty much right after that get some projections, which are usually accurate. Okay? So just to be clear, we should be getting, that's my understanding, is once the polls close, we'll get a lot of information right away. We won't get all the results right away, but we'll get projections right away. All right, I want to read a bunch of comments from you guys. Who did I vote for? Well, I can't vote because I am not a French citizen and I'm not in France. All right, I want to read some comments from you guys. Let me do that. Yes, right now it is 6:36 p.m. in France. Also, yes, as Ted pointed out, Macron chose this. So a few weeks ago, there were these European Parliament elections, which all the countries in the European Parliament, they have an election for representatives to European Parliament. And in France, the right-wing National Rally, the right-wing National Rally did the best, which was a big surprise. And Macron's centrist did not do that well. And in a shock move, Macron called this election. He didn't have to call this election for I think another 3 years. But he called, there's, in the US, the elections are at certain times. In France, there's a degree of choice. So Macron, as the president, could have waited 3 more years, basically, to call this election. But he surprised lots of people in calling this election. And it took a risk. So there's a thinking that, well, he wanted to do it because he thought that maybe some people who voted for the right wing as a protest vote, like in the European Parliament election, wouldn't vote for them if, like, in this election. But so the thinking was that the centrists, his centrists, would do better in this election than the one in the European Parliament election a few weeks ago. But that might not happen. So this was seen as a big risk by Macron to call this parliamentary election. It could be, I would say, what's most likely to happen, given the polling, is that Macron's centrists will lose a lot of their seats in the legislature. And that didn't have to happen. He could have waited several years to call this election. But we don't know what'll happen. Maybe the centrists will surprise people and do much better than is being anticipated. But the current polling suggests they're going to lose a lot of their seats. I know it's confusing if you haven't been following it. So, anyways, we're gonna let you know what's going on. So the big question is like, will Macron's party, will Macron's centrist lose seats in the legislature? If so, how much? And will the right wing or left wing take over the National Assembly in France? And it's, again, if you're the basically, as I understand it, the leaders of domestic policy making in France is the National Assembly. Our viewer, Daniel, so it's a big deal. It's a big deal if your party controls the National Assembly. You basically, quote, run the government. Although the president would still be basically head of defense policy and the armed forces and foreign policy. It's a big oversimplification, but that's the basic idea. Daniel thinks no chance Macron is done. Now, the vote is not on the president today. The vote is not on the president. The current assembly is controlled by the centrist, by Macron's centrist coalition, which I think is called Ensemble. This vote is not for president. It is not for president. Lily's thoughts, I think conservatives will control for a change. I don't think people are very happy with Macron. From a lot of articles I've read, there's a lot of dissatisfaction with Macron there. And people might vote against the centrists because they're dissatisfied with President Macron. The right-wing National Rally is known there as a Eurosceptic anti-immigration party. The left-wing group, which is running, I would say what they are known for is they want to do things like increase taxes on the wealthy, increase some benefits like minimum wage, and lower the minimum retirement age, things like that. Also, they are more like pro-Palestinian and less pro-Israel. That's the left wing. So there's various differences between the parties. But in terms of the right-wing National Rally, two things they're really known for is being anti-immigration and Eurosceptic. Our viewer Gweniel says, I am a French voter. Far left coalition is the biggest threat of all time. Wow. What was the upside to running this election, says Juju? So you can think of it as something like this. The right wing did surprisingly well in the European Parliament elections in France a few weeks ago. And I think the idea is possibly that Macron was thinking, well, people are actually kind of scared of the right wing, and they voted for them as a protest vote. But when they really think about whether they want the right wing in power, they're not going to actually vote for them for the National Assembly. I'm not saying that's what you should think. I think that's the thinking here. The thinking was that in the aftermath of this surprisingly high vote for the right wing in the European Parliament elections, the idea was like to basically say to the people, like, do you really want this? And the thinking was that maybe they'd be maybe people would think like, oh, wow, we're actually surprised the right wing did that well. We don't want them to do that well. So that's the basic idea, I think, behind having the snap election. Whatever you think of it, that's the basic idea. Is maybe capturing. I guess the idea is that maybe there's a feeling in France of like, wow, we didn't know that the right wing was going to do that well in the parliamentary elections. Do we really want them to run the legislature? And so maybe trying to capture a reaction to the European Parliament election. I'm not saying you have to agree with this. I think that's the basic idea of why you call the election, is you hope that, like in the country, there's a little of like, oh, whoa, I can't believe the right wing did that well. We can't have that. So that would be the thinking. That'd be the general idea. But you do risk, by having an election that did need to be held for another several years, not doing that well. Aaron Fudge says Macron is making a huge gamble today. Abe Froman says election head games. So again, just to remind you, I am on my laptop today. My internet is out in my studio. It will not get fixed till tomorrow. So I am literally on my laptop at a backup location, just doing the best I can with this stream. But it's not going to look that great, and the sound might be off. Who knows what kind of technical difficulties may happen. But I'm doing my best to do a stream for you. So I apologize in advance for any technical difficulties. Why does this matter to us? Well, France is a very important country in Europe. And France, for example, is right now under Macron a big supporter of Ukraine. That could change under a right-wing government, for example. A French government under the right wing could be less supportive of a unified Europe. And that could have various important impacts on the world. Also, this campaign could make a big. Maybe people see this campaign as a signal of what might happen in other important countries. Not that other countries aren't important, but it might be seen as a sign of things in other countries. So that's a couple of important things. Also, they're just an important country on the world stage. And this, you can also be interested in it as, one of the most influential, powerful countries in the world, and certainly one of the leaders of Europe. Also, so their policy on Israel and the Palestinian issue might change too. So those are some thoughts. Gigi says France is a huge ally and gives assistance to the world as well. Maybe France, if they have a different government, will change policies in ways that agree less with the USA, for example. All right, so we're watching a Reuters shot of election ballots are they being counted, or is that what's happening? This is, let me see if I can get an exact location here. This is, hold on. It says this is live from a polling station in Enine Beaumont. Oh, I know what's going on. So, many polls in France are closed, but not all of them are closed. So where you're watching right now, they are counting ballots, because I believe at this location, the polls are closed. So just to be clear on this, just to be clear, um, most polls are closed, but not all of them are closed. And projections are not allowed to be made in France. And a lot of reporting about the election is not allowed until all the polls are closed. But this, I believe at this location you're looking at in France, they are counting ballots because the polls are closed at this location. This is live video. Do we know who is ahead? No, because there's basically no reporting allowed on that kind of thing until all of the polls are closed, which will be in an hour and 10 minutes. There's no presidential election today. Let me just show you a little summary here. Let's see, is this going to work? Now I'll just read you some. So I'll keep the video up there. I'm going to keep the video up there, but just so you can see it here, let me just show you something real quick. I'm going to show you a little bit of what Wikipedia says about 2024 French legislative election. Let's see. Not everything I say is going to be reading for. As I said before, this is the first of 2 rounds. The second round will be on July 7th. This is for the National Assembly of France, the lower house of Parliament, which is very influential in France. And basically, whoever controls the lower house of Parliament gets to choose the prime minister and is basically is the most powerful in domestic policy there. And what happened is 3 weeks ago, there was a European Parliament election in France and other countries of the European Parliament. And the right-wing National Rally did surprisingly well, actually did the best in France. So in reaction to that, Macron, the president, called this legislative election, which he did not have to call for another several years. So this is a surprise election. As of 3 weeks ago, this election was not happening. So this was called just around 3 weeks ago. And the Wikipedia, as Wikipedia says, there's 4 main blocks in the election. There's Ensemble, which is the centrist Macron coalition. There's the right-wing National Rally. There's the left-wing, what are they called? The New Popular Front, the left wing. And then there's also the right-wing Republicans. But they're not seen as right-wing as the National Rally. By the way, I've heard there's high turnout today. Thanks to the one and only for your support. That's so nice of you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yes, as Graziella, our viewer says, Graziella win. The next election, Macron could have another legislative election, but it would have to be at least 1 year after this one. The next presidential election in France is in 2027, I believe. Yeah, there's a 2027 French presidential election. Let me see if I can get you an update here on turnout. Sorry, I know I'm jumping around a little bit. Okay, so according to, Hang on a second here. Oops. One moment here. Gray Hughes says maybe we should hold elections on weekends as well. So according to Le Figaro, they say at 5 p.m. the turnout in this election is a record since 1978. So the last time there were the last legislative election like this, the first round, was in 2022. That was the last time they did this. And the participation rate as of 5 p.m. was about 59% of the voters had voted today. And that was almost 20 points more than in the first round of the legislative elections in 2022 at 5 p.m. So this is high participation. I think these numbers are kind of like what you'd expect in a presidential election there. So a lot of people turning out for this election in France. Hey, thanks so much to Debbie James for the gift memberships. I appreciate that, Debbie. Thank you. So we'll be getting a bunch of updates in an hour and 4 minutes when the polls close. When will the polls close in an hour and 3 minutes, as it says on the screen? All the polls, a lot of the polls are already closed. So in some places, they're already counting ballots. Yeah, so BBC also says it's the highest election turnout in 40 years. The headline on the BBC right now is highest French election turnout in 40 years as far right sees historic win. I've seen a bunch of reports that say that Macron is not popular right now, President Macron, among a lot of French people. I've seen multiple reports saying that a number of centrist candidates, which is Macron's coalition, didn't actually prominently feature him in their campaigning. Like, for example, BBC says President Macron's name and picture rarely figured in his ensemble party's campaign. There was a fear he was a turnoff for voters. Are they all paper ballots? That I don't know. I do not know. I see an article from 2022 saying it's in-person hand counted, but I'm not sure how it is today. Big Don says yes. Psycho Spartan Chick says yes, paper. So the way this works today is there are 577 members of the National Assembly, which is what they're voting on today. The National Assembly, the lower house of Parliament, the legislature. And there's 577 members. And so like different places around the country vote for their representative. So if you get basically if you get 50% today, you win. But if nobody from a particular place gets if nobody from a particular area constituency gets more than 50%, then they have a runoff in a week, and anyone who gets 12.5% or more can be in that runoff. But it won't be clear. So my understanding is like we should find out a bunch based on the results of today, but it won't be clear how many seats all the parties will end up with because, for example, suppose that in a particular constituency, a particular location, there's going to be 3 candidates who get enough votes to run next week. Well, one of those candidates might I'll make an alliance with another candidate, and one of them might pull out. So, so one of the candidates might say, well, you know, I don't want this other candidate to win, so I'm going to pull out and tell my voters to vote for the third candidate. So there's a lot of political maneuvering that goes on between today and next week. So we won't know for sure how things will turn out next week at the end of today. We'll know a lot more. But from what I understand, there's a lot of maneuvering that goes on, things like, parties making alliances in different locations before next week's runoff vote. But this is the first round today, and the second and final round is in a week. Less than an hour, guys, less than an hour. Less than an hour till all the polls close and we get projections. Susan says people are fed up with their government. Evelyn in Maine says the Macron has been criticized for avoiding consultation and being removed from the concerns of his fellow citizens. So a really big question today is, will the right-wing National Rally Party do really well? And it's possible, a little while back in France, they were seen as like an outcast party, but they have in recent years tried to make themselves sort of more broadly acceptable. And there's this big question, though, as to like, could they actually win this election and take control of the assembly? Could their presumed presidential candidate, Marine Le Pen, if I'm pronouncing that right, win the presidential election in a few years? So that, I think, is one of the biggest questions, is how will the right wing do? And could they actually take over the legislature there? So, like, for example, the New York Times says, after decades on the fringes, the anti-immigrant, Eurosceptic far right has never been closer to governing France, which would be a stunning development in a country that has been at the heart of the European project. A national rally that's right-wing prime minister could clash with Mr. Macron over issues like France's contribution to the European Union budget or support for Ukraine in its war against Russia. Now, on the left wing, in theory, could take control of the legislature as well. The New York Times says they want to overturn some of what Mr. Macron's government did over the past 7 years, like raise the legal age of retirement. The left wing wants to roll back corporate tax cuts and tax breaks for the rich, to vastly increase social spending and pass a big minimum wage hike. In the current polling, the centrist ensemble party, which is the centrist ensemble coalition, which is Macron's group, they are polling behind the left wing and the right wing. And the right wing national rally is leading. That's been in the polls leading up to this. AP says many French voters are frustrated about inflation and other economic concerns, as well as President Macron's leadership, seen as arrogant and out of touch with their lives. Marine Le Pen's anti-immigration national rally right-wing party has tapped that discontent, um, and a new coalition on the left, the New Popular Front. New Popular Front also poses a challenge to the pro-business Macron and his centrist alliance. This is interesting. So turnout is quite high today. The turnout at 5 p.m. was around 59%, which Le Figaro says was a record, which was the most since 1978. And it's interesting. Associated Press says some pollsters suggested that the high turnout could lessen the outcome for the hard right national rally, possibly indicating voters made an extra effort to cast ballots for fear that the right wing could win. I don't know that, but that's an interesting idea. And we will get the first projections in 53 minutes because that's when the rest of the polls close. KES and SC says weekend voting in America would be awesome. Thanks again to all of our moderators. We have, just to say a quick thanks to them, Danny James, AJ, Ruth Krafasi, thank you, RJ, BZ, Linda Belkin, Larry. Also, we have over there on Twitch, Good Luck Duck, I got that fire and Papa Bear. And speaking of Twitch, a quick thanks to, hold on a second here. Why can't I see this? Thanks Legion 54 for your support. I appreciate that. Also, thanks to all of our Facebook mods. Our mods on Facebook are people like Kay Lowry Body, Margaret Riley, Christina Neal, Ronald Egnor, and Paul Anderson. Thank you. So what will happen here? Will Macron's centrists end up losing a lot of their seats in Parliament, in the lower house? They control the lower house through like working with partners. I think they have 250 seats right now, Macron centrists, but they could lose a lot of their seats. Oh, so let me mention this again. So real quick, I don't know if I'm coming in a little, seems like my levels are a little high. Are my levels a little high? I can turn down my levels. Hang on. Testing 1, 2, 3. Test. Let me adjust my level. So I am not in my normal studio today. Hang on. when your head bends down, Richard says your neck chin muffles the mic. Yeah. So the problem is that I'm using this wireless mic because I'm not in my normal studio because the internet's broken in the studio till tomorrow. So I'm on my laptop with a wireless mic. I see. I worry if I move the mic down, you won't hear me as well. Is that any better? That's probably softer. Testing 1, 2, 3, 4. Testing, 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 testing. Can you hear? Can you hear? Can you hear? Can you hear? Testing, testing, testing. Yeah, so I'm on a laptop at a backup location. So I'm just trying to do some sort of live stream today because because I can't use my studio today. All right. Thanks, Richard, and everybody else who mentioned it in the chat. Doing the best I can today. By the way, I just saw this. What is this thing about? Really quick. CNN reports that several U.S. military bases in Europe have been placed on heightened alert and moved to force protection Charlie amid possible terrorist threat. Hold on a second. Hold on one moment. CNN says several U.S. military bases across Europe were put on heightened state of alert over the weekend, with the level of force protection raised to its second highest state, amid concerns that a terrorist attack could target U.S. military personnel or facilities. Well, we'll keep an eye on that. It is not clear what intelligence triggered the heightened security. I posted a link to an article about that, by the way, on my X account. Hey, we only have 48 minutes until the polls close, and we get projections. Oh, thanks JK Sinar for the gift memberships. Thank you. Thanks JK, I appreciate that. Sorry, just doing a couple checks here. Yeah, I apologize. I wish I could be in my studio today, but there's no internet in the studio, and it won't be fixed until tomorrow. Hopefully it gets fixed tomorrow. All right, so we are here covering live the French first round of the today's very important French parliamentary election, where France is electing their lower house of parliament, which is a big deal in France. Let me see if I can find a little summary of that for you. Hang on one second here. So in France, whoever controls the lower house of parliament, uh, they get to choose. Basically, from what I think, the president has to nominate the prime minister, but the prime minister will come from that party, and they will basically be in charge of domestic policy. So, like, technically, they run the government. They run the government. Although the president still would be foremost in foreign policy and defense, but if the right wing or the left wing takes over in the lower house of parliament, they'll have a right wing or left wing prime minister, and the right wing or left wing will run the government. Macron's centrists have been in control of the lower house, but they're expected to lose a lot of seats. So the Wall Street Journal says that President Macron has billed these elections as a moment of truth in France's years-long drift toward far-right nationalism. And as I explained before, 3 weeks ago there were European parliamentary elections in many European countries, and in France, in those elections, the right-wing National Rally did the best, which was a big surprise. And Macron called these snap elections. He could have waited several years to have these legislative elections, but he surprisingly called these elections for today. And the the Wall Street Journal says he assumed that voters would rally around his party, and that the opportunity to defeat the far-right National Rally would provide France with a means of clarification after the far-right trounced his centrists in European elections 3 weeks ago. Wall Street Journal also says the mere specter of National Rally, the right-wing National Rally, taking the reins of government is a sign of how the party's strident anti-immigrant stance has moved to the mainstream of public discourse in France. The party is campaigning on a promise to restrict the rights of foreign residents living legally in France and tighten access to citizenship, welfare, and housing. They are also a Eurosceptic party. The Economist says the right-wing National Rally has tried to shrug off its past xenophobic and anti-Semitic image and instead sound reasonable and look presentable. It retains signature anti-immigration pledges nonetheless, including a promise to end the right to French citizenship for those born to foreign parents on French soil. These are combined with popular promises to lower the value-added tax on energy bills and motor fuel, bring back the wealth tax, lower the pension age, and pay less into the European Union. The Right National Rally also wants to end French support for Ukraine's membership of the EU and stop sending the country long-range cruise missiles that could reach Russian soil. So that's a really big. What does Eurosceptic mean? They are not as for working with the rest of Europe in like a united Europe as others might be. They want to preserve more power for France itself and have less shared government with Europe. I'm not an expert on that, but that's like a basic way of looking at it. So they would want less European integration. 40 minutes until the polls close and we get projections. 40 minutes, guys. Let me take some more comments from you. At Lookner on X, you can write to me. Obscure Camera 24 says, this reminds me of when David Cameron in the UK called for a snap referendum regarding Brexit. Look what happened there. Daredevil says, I wonder if Macron thinks the trending support for the right won't stop its upward movement, so sooner is better than later. Mark P. thinks Macron would not have called this election unless he thought he believed he could win. I believe the attitude is that the Euro elections represent France's attitude towards Euro policies only. It looks like in this video, this is from some polling place where they are still voting. I'm going to have some other video here too. Although I'm not going to have translations in English. So like Marine Le Pen is supposed to speak, but it's going to be in French. We'll stay on this night right now. Yeah, this is the first of 2 rounds. The second round is in 1 week. Hang on a second here. CBS News says Macron called these early elections after his party was trounced in the European Parliament election earlier in June by the right-wing National Rally, which has historic ties to racism and anti-Semitism and is hostile towards France's Muslim community. It also has historical ties to Russia. Macron's call was an audacious gamble that French voters who were complacent about the European election would be jolted into turning out for moderate forces in national elections to keep the far right out of power. Instead, pre-election polls suggested the National Rally is gaining support and has a chance at winning a parliamentary majority. In that scenario, Macron would be expected to name 28-year-old National Rally President Jordan Bardella as prime minister in an awkward power sharing system known as cohabitation. Cohabitation is when the president and the prime minister are from different parties. CBS News also says huge public spending promises by the right-wing National Rally and the left-wing coalition have shaken markets and ignited worries about France's heavy debt already criticized by EU watchdogs. 35 minutes until the polls close. Hang on one moment. One moment here. Harthouse, our viewer, thinks Macron has to win. There are limits on, there's strict limits on what can be reported about the election in France until all the polls close. We will get what are supposed to be reliable projections, I believe, right around when the polls close, but they can't start talking about projections before that. The Economist says the right wing controlling the government in France is a prospect which once belonged to the realm of fantasy and dread, but is now being taken seriously. I was trying to just get you kind of a summary of how things work with the government in France. It's interesting. Yes. So look, um, this is interesting. So from an Economist article, they kind of give a little summary of how things work there with the president and the legislature. So, and by the way, this election today is not about the president. He's not, the next presidential election is 2027. Um, the Economist explains, although the president of France has extensive powers over defense and foreign policy, new domestic policy like the budget needs to be voted by the parliament. Administering domestic policy is the preserve of the government, headed by a prime minister whom the president picks, but whom parliament can dismiss through a simple confidence vote. In practice, Mr. Macron will have little choice but to offer the job of prime minister to the nominee of whichever party or alliance comes on top. So again, like the most powerful institution for domestic policy is whoever controls the National Assembly, and that's what's being voted on today in the first round and a week from now in the second round. Are there prediction polls about who will come out on top? In the polling so far, leading up to this, the leading up, the right wing was leading and the left wing was second and the centrists were third. I can give you one estimate, but we won't know but at the end of the day how many seats each party gets. We'll only know that next week. But we might have a much better idea of what will happen. Yes, so for example, BBC has a poll where National Rally, the right wing, has 36%. The left-wing New Popular Front had 29%, and the Macron centrist alliance has 19.5%. That's not from today. That's just a recent poll um, that was posted by BBC. But it's they didn't take the poll; they just posted it. 30 minutes, guys. Hey, Cupcake is here. She lives in France. So we're bringing you live coverage in 30 minutes. We will get what are supposed to be reliable projections about what's happening today. Um, oh, Espernard says, is there a higher parliament? There is a second house of parliament, the Senate, but it is not as powerful as the lower house, the legislature. Mail Bella says only after 8 o'clock Paris time, which is in 29 minutes, by law are they allowed to publish polls and results. Anthony thinks Bardella will win. By that he means the right-wing national rally. Let me just check here something. What was I going to check? Thanks for bearing. So Marine Le Pen is presumably going to be the presidential candidate of the right-wing national rally in 2027. Jordan Bardella, if they won, would be the prime minister, most likely. He's the president of the party. What was I going to check here? I was going to check something right now. I can't remember. Do they form coalitions? So if no party wins, or if none of the groups that are running as a group win a majority, they could try to form a majority by pairing with other representatives. So like right now in the current National Assembly, I believe right now the current breakdown is there's 250, I think 250 centrist ensemble members of the lower house, but they actually are in a coalition with some others. So they don't have a majority, but they control by ruling in a coalition. Yes, ensemble right now has. Sorry, I have to look it up. Why can't I find it here? I'm just looking for a quick answer. I can't even find it. I can't find it. I'm sorry. I'm not going to keep looking. I don't know why it's not simpler to find just this quick answer. But yeah, so if you don't get a majority, you can try to work with you can try to form some kind of majority with other members who are not in your party. Justin says, why don't the far left and the central form a coalition against the national rally? So first of all, I mean, one obvious reason they're not running together is they have different policies. For example, economically, the left-wing policies are less pro-business. They want to tax businesses more and also spend more on social programs. So that's a big reason why they're not running together. But you know, look, people can do what they want. Once the breakdown of seats comes, um, once we get the final results next week, we see exactly who has how many seats. If no one has an absolute majority, then maybe some groups will agree to work together. If the right wing was close to a majority but not quite there, could the other deputies decide to, work together to prevent the right wing from being in control? I don't know, but it's up to the people who are elected. 20, under 25 minutes until the polls close. And thanks for bearing with me. I am on my laptop today. I'm not in the studio because the internet is not working in the studio. It's supposed to get fixed tomorrow. So the sound's going to maybe be a little off today in the video and everything, but I'm doing my best. Yeah, some people have sent me things that they claim are predictions for what's going to happen today. I'm not going to report that stuff. I don't know how reliable it is. What I know is that you're not allowed to post projections in France until the polls close. It's a two-round election. It's a two-round election, but if you get 50% in your area, you win today if you get more than 50%. So some seats will be decided today and some will not be decided till next week. France 24's Catherine Norris Trent says voter turnout is predicted to be above 65%, the highest in decades. Voters from all across the political spectrum are aware of the high stakes. That is from France 24's Catherine Norris Trent. Oh, I wanted to pull up here. So I remember what I want to do. There is a site, I think there's a government site where they'll post the results. So I want to pull that up. Where is that? I had it here. We'll get the first projections in 22 minutes. Man, I had written this down. Now I can't find it. Where is it? I muted myself. I accidentally muted myself. Sorry. Um, I I'm on the page for the Interior Ministry, but they don't have a link. You can see it says participation as of 5 p.m., about 60%. But it doesn't have any results yet. But there's no results yet. So I'm hoping it just pops up here once we get to 8 p.m. There's no count so far. There's no numbers released so far. Nothing gets released, even projections, until 20 minutes from now. It's a 2-round election. So some seats will be decided today, but if nobody gets 50% in a seat, there will be a runoff election next week with everybody who got 12.5% for that seat. You can give me a shout at Lookner on X. Yes, every seat is vacated and being decided, Sam Diaz. That's the way they do it. It's like the U.S. Congress, like the U.S. House. Every 2 years, the U.S. House gets voted on. Every seat in the lower house is up for election. Thanks, Cupcake from France. Thanks to all of our moderators. The AP says this could be the first far-right government in France since the World War II Nazi occupation, or something else might happen. The three major blocs are the far-right National Rally, the left-wing New Popular Front, and the President Macron centrists. The National Assembly is the more powerful of France's two houses of parliament. It has the final say in the lawmaking process over the Senate, and it is the most powerful institution for domestic policy. ABC News says many French voters are frustrated about inflation and other economic concerns, as well as President Macron's leadership, seen as arrogant and out of touch with their lives. Marine Le Pen's anti-immigration National Rally Party has tapped that discontent. Also, a new coalition on the left, the New Popular Front, poses a challenge to the pro-business Macron and his centrist alliance. Just 16 and a half minutes, guys. 16 and a half minutes. Politico says French President Macron's centrist coalition risks annihilation not only by the far-right National Rally, but also the left. On the line is the country's leading role in the EU and NATO, as well as the French economy. Politico also says the far-right National Rally Party is skeptical of France's engagement with both the EU and NATO. Without an engaged France, both are significantly weakened. So remember, 3 weeks ago, there was an election in France for the European Parliament. The right wing did much better than expected. And surprisingly, after that, Macron called this election, which he could have waited several years to call, but he called this election a surprise election for the lower house of Parliament. And they also say the question on, Politico says the question on everybody's mind is whether the anti-immigration right-wing National Rally will be ruling the country as of next month. At the moment, it looks like they're going to make big gains. You need 289 seats for a majority in the lower house of Parliament there. They currently have 88, the right-wing National Rally. Also, Macron's coalition is expected to take really big losses. They currently have 250 seats, but they're expected to have much less by the end of this next week. All right, guys. Wow. Oh, so what you're looking at there is that the National Rally event? Right wing? I think it might be. Yeah, I believe that is a National Rally right wing, like watch party kind of thing. I think Le Pen is supposed to speak there. Guys, 13 minutes left. 13 minutes until the polls close and we get some projection as to what happened today. So some seats will be decided today. You got to win 50% to get to win your seat today. If nobody gets 50% for a given seat, everybody who gets 12.5% or more will go out to a runoff next week. Any chance for unrest after results are in? I haven't. Well, I don't know exactly. I haven't heard about any unrest going on today, any major unrest, but I don't know. Jane Jones says, are France and Europe going right-wing over inflation issues or immigration policies? So that's a good question. I read one article yesterday, I forget where, which was suggesting that maybe a reason the right wing is doing so well is just because people are, it's more about economic issues and dissatisfaction with Macron. I don't know. I'm certainly not an expert on French politics at all, but that is a good question. And the right wing recently in France has been trying to make itself more palatable and respectable for people generally to vote for in France. But they are still certainly an anti-immigration and anti-European integration party. And look, I'm guessing different people vote for I'm guessing different people who vote for the right wing there vote for it for different reasons. All right, about 10 minutes. In 10 minutes, we will the polls will close, and in 10 minutes, we will find out the projections as to how well the parties did today. Will and of course that'll be a big sign as to how things will go next week too. So how will things go today? So the poll I read you from the BBC, which was a major poll that was recently taken, they had it at, what was it again? Where is it here? Where is it? I need to find it. I had it here. Now I can't find it. Oh, Wikipedia says that, sorry, where is it here? I'm looking at Wikipedia and they have no, I don't want to misread it here. So I believe that the right wing was in the 30s. What did I say? I can't remember. I can't find that link with that previous poll. Why am I quoting Wikipedia? Because they have Saswatch says, bro, why are you quoting Wikipedia? Because they have an article with lots of different polls, bro. Right. So The Economist a few days ago, The Economist said that the current polling had the right wing at 37%, the left wing at 29%, and the centrists at 21%. So we'll see if it's something like that. We'll see if it's something like that. But again, so something to keep in mind as we're just 7.5 minutes away from getting the projections, something just numbers to keep in mind. And these would not be good numbers for Macron, for the centrists. But as of a few days ago, according to The Economist, the right wing was polling at 37%. The Popular Front left wing was polling at 29%, and the centrist ensemble at 21%. But it's not, the way they do the seats there is it's not like they divide the seats up based on total percentage of vote. Each seat is its own election. But when you hear what the percentage breakdown is projected to be for the vote today, you can compare that in your head to 37, 29, 21, right, left, center, because that was what it was a few days ago. That was the opinion polling, which would be quite bad for the centrists, for Macron. Thanks to our member Bob B. Thanks for all your guys' support. We're watching the Reuters feed. I don't have the audio on because I don't want to hear music. Are they playing music? Let's see. Hold on. See if I can put the volume on a little bit. Can you guys still hear me? Can you hear me over that sound? It's a little loud in my headphones. Are you guys hearing me okay over that audio? Yes, you are hearing me? Oh, hold on. Now you weren't hearing the feed audio. Now you're going to hear the feed audio. Now how about now? How about now? I just turned the feed audio on. Yeah, I didn't have the feed audio on. How about right now? You can still hear me all right? All right. You should be able to hear the sound on the feed now. Okay. Hey, thanks for watching from South Korea. Oh, hang on. Une particularité à surveiller également, la question des conséquences indexées plus que votre... Give me one sec here. Trying to adjust the volume in my headphones real quick. That's the problem. Okay. I have a better balance in my headphones now, so I can turn that up a little bit. All right. So guys, in just less than 4 minutes, the polls will all close in France. Most of them are closed, but they'll all be closed in less than 4 minutes. And again, this is a really important election in France. Basically, it's for control of the lower house, which roughly speaking controls domestic policy, although the president still has a big say in that. And Macron's centrists are expected to lose a lot of seats. Could the right wing take control of the government in France for the first time since World War II? And this is a 2-round election. The second round is in a week, but we should learn a lot today about how things will turn out next week. So you're looking right now at, I think, like the right wing event there in France. And we are bringing you a live coverage here. And in less than 3 minutes, we'll get the first projections. Okay? We're not going to be, this will be in French, but I'm going to consult some French sources and translate them. I think all these French outlets will start reporting stuff in like 2.5 minutes. So what is going to happen here? Thank you to all of our mods. I really appreciate it. Moderators, thanks for being with us. Thank you for bearing with me today as I am on my laptop in a backup location because the internet is not working in my studio. So I am doing my best to bring you a live stream today, even though I am not in my studio. I know the sound and video is different, but doing my best. One minute and 44 seconds until the polls close. If they start playing music from this event, I'll have to temporarily mute it. $125. Oh my gosh, guys. Oops, sorry. Let me get that back up. That's not what I wanted to do. Let me get that back up here. Hang on. One moment. One moment. We're going to be good. We're going to be okay. Everything will be all right. There we go. Sorry. Uh, 50 seconds now. 50 seconds. We're counting down 45 seconds. 45 seconds. What are the projections going to be? We're just about to get projections. We are 30 seconds. We're going to get the projections fast. 30 seconds. 20 seconds. I'll fix the headline after, but I got to get you the projections first. Four, three, two, one. The polls are closed in France. The polls are closed. Okay, what are the projections? Trying to get you the projections here. What is it? What is it? What are the projections? National Rally is in the lead according to Alertes Infos. Okay. Breaking news. Hold on. Breaking news here. That's going to be in French. Hey guys, this is BFM TV via Reuters. So breaking news. There it is right there. Can you guys see this? Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on, I'll get this for you. You can't see it. I know you can't see it. There it is. Okay, National Rally, the right wing with 33, left wing with 28.5, and center is 22. All right, hang on a second. So national, all right, hold on. Let me get the headline up there. Let me change the headline now so you guys can see that. Projection. Oops. Sorry. I'm not in my own studio, so it's a little hard. Projection. Right wing. 33%, left 28.5%, centrist 22%. Okay, hold on. I'm fixing the headline. Give me one moment here. Doing my best. Why is this? Uh-oh. Can you still hear me? Having a bit of an issue here. Can I adjust this here? Let's see. Not letting me change this. Sorry, I'm not in my normal studio, so I'm just having a little bit of an issue here trying to change something. So give me one moment. Hopefully this works. Hopefully this works. See how the headline is like off? Ugh, it's really annoying. Let me try to fix it this way. No, I'm getting my program isn't working. All right, my headline's all messed up. The headline is all messed up. Please bear with me as the headline is messed up. But the current projection is right wing 33%, which is less than they've been polling. They've been polling at about 30, high 30s. And left wing 28.5% and centrist 22%. Oh, I just saw a different projection. Hang on, let me get you a different one. Sorry, I'm having a bit of a technical issue here. This is what happens when I'm not in the studio. Oh, I just saw another projection. Hold on. Hang on a second here. I do apologize, guys. I'm literally just dealing with a technical issue. These are projections only. Yes. So BBC says BBC has a projection which is right-wing National Rally 34%, New Popular Front left-wing 28.1%, Macron 20%. Macron centrist 20%. Let me fix this headline. Oh, it's so annoying. Oh, hold on. I might be able to fix this now. I might be able to finally fix the headline. Nope, it's not letting me. Oh, there we go. Okay, so the one in the BBC says 34, 28, and 20. So let me put that up there for now. That's as good as we're going to get with the headline, I think. Okay, so that according to BBC is the I have it on the screen there, but that's the current projection in terms of percentages. Now, in terms of seats, what really matters is seats. So forget the percentages. What's the current prediction for seats? That we need to figure out. So let me look that up. At least I got the headline fixed. Paul Kirby of BBC says big lead for far right, but this race isn't over. He points out that the left-wing alliance has also done extremely well as the right. What happens tonight in the coming days is what counts. Hang on. Oh, let's see here. I'm seeing it's unclear how all the seats are going to shake out. There's 577 seats, and a seat is only decided today if somebody wins more than 50%. If not, they have a runoff next week where everyone who got more than 12.5% will run. So it's not clear how this is going to play out next week. Macron is centrist. So in many of these seats are not going to be decided today because it's only the first round today. The second round is in a week. I can't play the music. I'll wait until, I think Le Pen is going to speak. Hang on one moment. Sky News says the far-right National Rally leads the first round according to exit polls. In an estimate for BFM TV, okay, I guess it's a polling company, a lobby, said the National Rally and its allies could win between 360 and 310 parliament seats. But Ipsos projected a range of 230 to 280 seats for National Rally and its allies. Okay, so you need 289 seats. Oh, there's Marine Le Pen, who is she's like the leader of she's not the president of the party, but she's basically the leader of the party, Marine Le Pen. This is the right-wing National Rally Party. So she is speaking now. It's going to be in French.
responsable politique, je me félicite de la participation si élevée qui donne une force particulière au résultat de ce soir. Les Français ont ainsi, dans un vote sans ambiguïté, témoigné de leur volonté de tourner la page après 7 ans de pouvoir méprisant et corrosif. Nous en remercions chaleureusement les électeurs et accueillons ce résultat, première étape vers un choix d'alternance comme une marque de confiance qui nous honore et nous oblige. J'ai en particulier une pensée pour les électeurs de la 11e circonscription du Pas-de-Calais qui me font l'honneur de m'élire dès ce soir. Pour autant, rien n'est gagné et le second tour sera déterminant. Déterminant pour éviter au pays de tomber entre les mains de la coalition NUPES 2 et en réalité d'une extrême gauche à tendance violente, antisémite et anti-républicaine dont les éléments les plus activistes de LFI, du NPA, des groupes...
So really quick, this is Marine Le Pen from the right-wing National Rally Party. It is unclear right now. It is unclear if by the end of next week, 1 week from today is the second round where all the seats will be decided. And right now, it is unclear. Some projections say that the National Rally will have an absolute majority in the lower house and run the government. And some projections say they're going to have less than an absolute majority. So it's really not clear yet whether they're going to win a majority in the lower house. But they're coming from a place where they had 88 seats. And so they're projected to be at least in the 200s now. They would need 289 for an absolute majority.
Et de basses manœuvres pour faire échec à la vraie alternance dont le pays a urgemment besoin. C'est pourquoi je
Yeah, I don't understand French.
À renouveler votre vote si vous avez choisi nos candidats au premier tour. Si vous avez fait un autre choix, je vous appelle à rejoindre dimanche la coalition de la liberté, de la sécurité et de l'unité. Dimanche, en votant pour les candidats de l'Union nationale, vous ferez en sorte que le pays retrouve dans l'unité et la fraternité l'énergie pour ne faire plus qu'un. En ces jours qui viennent, gardez-vous de ceux qui, en usant d'une peur injustifiée ou de menaces inventées, voudraient uniquement faire perdurer un système qui a failli et a vécu. Aucun Français, je dis bien aucun Français, ne perdra de droits. Au contraire, les droits seront garantis et dès lors que la situation le permettra, de nouveaux seront créés au bénéfice de chacun. Mes chers compatriotes, ce 30 juin 2024, dans le pays renaît l'espérance. Le 7 juillet, mobilisez-vous pour que le peuple gagne. Vive la République, vive la France!
So again, the right wing is going to make big gains in this election. Will they actually control the government, which is what it's called when you control the lower house of parliament there? Well, that's not clear, and it won't be clear until next week. But either they'll have an absolute majority of seats in the lower house, or they'll be close to it. But we don't know exactly how many seats they'll end up with at the end of next week. One projection I'm seeing for them is between 260 and 310 seats in the lower house, and they would need 289 for an absolute majority. But that's a big gain for them. But it's a big question whether they can win enough seats to take control of the lower house. But huge gain for the right wing from the previous 88 seats they held in France. We'll be covering this next week too. Sophie Petter of The Economist says the vote was crushing and painful for Macron centrists, who scored 20.3%. And they're probably going to lose a lot of their seats. They previously had 250 seats. She also says political earthquake in France. Sophie Petter of The Economist says, political earthquake in France, Le Pen's hard-right party and allies have won a massive lead in the first round of parliamentary voting. It's not clear if they'll get this is the left wing. This is the left wing's left-wing NFP speaking.
Après 7 ans de maltraitance sociale, 7 ans d'indifférence écologique, sous l'autorité erratique et méprisante du président de la République, le pays a été mis tout soudain au défi d'une dissolution précipitée. Le président Macron pensait enfermer de nouveau le suffrage universel, l'opinion, dans...
Yeah, real quick response to Haniel. Thanks, Haniel Vargas. The presidency was not being voted on today. The next presidential election is 2027. Marine Le Pen from the right wing is expected to run in the presidential election in 2027.
Qui était tendu au pays. Ce vote a infligé une lourde et indiscutable défaite au président, à ses candidats et à la prétendue majorité présidentielle. Ce soir, une seule chose est certaine en matière de primature, Monsieur Attal ne sera plus Premier ministre.
This is the left-wing NFP.
La formation du nouveau Front populaire il y a 3 semaines, en à peine 24 heures. Ses candidatures communes dès le premier tour. Son programme partagé. Et aujourd'hui, le bon de la participation ont déjoué le piège. Il faut souligner que le progrès considérable du retour aux urnes se réalise grâce à l'action massive et à l'engagement de la jeunesse et des quartiers populaires.
So Politico says Le Pen's far right set for big win in first round of French election. National Rally made big gains in the first round of this 2-round election. Second round is next week, which could see the far right party, the National Rally, take power in France for the first time. It is unclear whether at the end of the second round next week, the right wing will have enough seats in Parliament to take power, but they will be close. And they'll have a lot more than the 88 they had previously. It's expected that they might have somewhere between roughly 260 to 310, although it could be higher or lower than that. They would need 289 for an absolute majority. And the centrists, who currently have the most seats, 250, that's Macron's centrist coalition, they are going to lose a lot of seats, although it's not clear how much yet. This is the NFP, the left wing, which also has made gains today.
Demande raisonnable à formuler devant notre peuple que celle-ci. Il faut donner.
Donna Smith says, why is this a win for Putin? So the right-wing National Rally Party is less supportive of Ukraine, of sending aid to Ukraine, than the current government is. And also, like, they're against Ukraine's membership in the EU. They don't want to send Ukraine long-range weapons that can hit Russia. And it is anticipated that if the right wing were in power, there would be less French support for Ukraine. Also, the right-wing National Rally has some historical ties to Russia.
Est présent en duel dans la plupart des cas. Le plus souvent face au RN pour nous donner une majorité absolue. Dans un certain nombre de cas, des triangulaires sont possibles. Conformément à nos principes et à nos positions constantes dans toutes les élections précédentes, nulle part nous ne permettrons au RN de l'emporter, et c'est pourquoi, dans l'hypothèse où il serait arrivé en tête tandis que nous ne serions qu'en troisième position, nous retirerons notre candidature. Nous retirerons notre candidature. En toutes circonstances, où que ce soit et dans quelque cas que ce soit, notre consigne est simple.
So I believe the person speaking is Jean-Luc Mélenchon, although I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. This is the left-wing gathering here. And he said, according to The Guardian, he said that today's vote is defeat for the president's camp, the centrists. And he said the new Popular Front is the sole alternative. So I think one of the things he has said is something like, look, if you don't want the right wing to be in power, you should vote for us. Because he says that this is a defeat for the president's centrist camp.
Durablement l'avenir du pays et le sort de chacun d'entre nous. Nous appelons chacune et chacun à faire preuve de sang-froid et de force de conviction. Chacune, chacun doit prendre position, s'engager et convaincre autour de soi. Il y va de la France, il y va de la République, il y va de l'idée que nous nous faisons de la vie en commun. Les sondages qui sont annoncés, comme d'habitude, évolueront favorablement pour nous, en cours de soirée. Dès lors, les projections de résultats en sièges n'ont aucune valeur crédible, sinon que de tenter de faire pression. En vérité, le futur n'est jamais écrit nulle part d'avance. Toujours, comme dans notre vie privée, notre vie collective dépend de la décision et de l'engagement de chacun d'entre nous. Avec le nouveau Front populaire, une nouvelle France peut surgir, une France faite d'unité, de respect pour chacun.
Okay, something else that Jean-Luc Mélenchon has said. I believe he's speaking right now. He's with the left-wing NFP. He said, according to Le Parisien, he said that in any of the seats where there's 3 candidates who've made it to next week, the runoff, if the NFP is in 3rd place, they will withdraw their candidate. He said not one vote, not one more seat for the right-wing national rally. So the point is, you might have a situation where you have 3 candidates running for a seat: the right-wing national rally, the centrist ensemble, and the left-wing, I think it's the NFP. And so maybe the two non-right-wing candidates, they'll reach an agreement where one of them drops out if they don't want the right-wing candidate to win. I don't know. We'll have to see. So, it's not exactly clear what will happen next week when the runoff elections happen for any seat that wasn't decided today. And then Le Parisien also says that Le Parisien says Macron's centrists are projected to end up with 53 to 71 seats at the end of next week, which would be a big drop from 250 seats. And Marine Le Pen, with the right-wing National Rally, she spoke, and she emphasized that the National Rally needs an absolute majority in the lower house. So she was encouraging their supporters to vote next week so they could have an absolute majority. So big gains for the right wing and also gains for the left wing. Big losses for Macron centrists in this first of two rounds. Macron released a statement, but he has not spoken yet. I don't know if is he going to speak now? I'm not sure. Something else that Marine Le Pen said. She is from the National Rally right-wing party. She also said, according to BBC, that democracy has spoken and the French have put the RN and its allies at the top, practically wiping out the Macron camp, she says. And BBC also points out, they say the final outcome of this election, which the second round is next week, is guesswork. Because it's the number of seats is 577 and there's races for each seat. It's not based on what percentage you get overall. They say France's two-round election system throws up a host of imponderables and permutations. Any candidate who got 12.5% today can go on to the next round. The final outcome in each constituency will depend on whether third or fourth place candidates decide to pull out. Ultimately, the result hinges on who minority parties and candidates choose as the lesser of two evils among their rivals. Expect intense horse trading between the two rounds. That's according to BBC. The right-wing National Rally is known as an anti-immigration party and a Eurosceptical party. The right wing has not been in power in France since World War II. But they are going to be at least close to being in power. We'll see if next week they can take power in the lower house. So that's going to be the big question a week from today, on July 7th, is can the right wing win enough seats? They're going to be close. Can they win enough seats for an absolute majority in the lower house that will allow them to choose their prime minister, have Jordan Bardella as a prime minister, and also whoever controls the lower house basically is the government. They control domestic policy, although the president still has a big say in that. But the leaders in domestic policy in France are whoever controls the lower house. The right wing is going to be close. Will they get an absolute majority once all is said and done next week? But this is a huge gain for the right wing. They had 88 seats in the lower house before today, and right now, and they're expected to, get somewhere between, like, could be the mid 200s or even in the 300s. And Macron centrists are going to drop from 250 seats to probably less than 100. Celeste Granillo says, what a humiliation for Macron, especially right before the Olympics. So big gains for the right, and also gains for the left as well, the left wing. Mail Bella thinks they will not. 289 is needed and projection is about maximum 270. Oh, I disagree with you, Mail. I've been reading a bunch of articles, and I just read you one from BBC, for example, and the articles say it's just not clear if they'll get a majority. We'll have to see. Yes, you need 289 for a majority. But I see again and again analysis that says it just is unclear whether they'll have enough for an absolute majority. The Guardian says that Place Publique, a center-left political party in France, is calling for different groups to come together to defeat the far right by withdrawing candidates in third place in three-way races in the second round. The far right is at the gates of power, they say. Is this Jordan Bardella? I believe this is Jordan Bardella, who is the president of the right-wing National Rally Party. He could end up being prime minister if the National Rally does well enough next week.
Mes chers compatriotes, de métropole, d'outre-mer et de l'étranger.
Yes. Cupcake says, yes, it's him. This is Jordan Bardella from the right-wing National Rally Party.
Avec la participation la plus importante depuis 40 ans. Aujourd'hui, les Français ont été au rendez-vous de leurs responsabilités. Ils ont fait honneur
Just 28 years old. 28 years old.
Et je tiens à les en remercier. À nouveau, 3 semaines après les élections européennes, qui ont entraîné la convocation de ces élections législatives anticipées, ils ont rendu un verdict sans appel et confirmé leur aspiration claire au changement. En portant les candidats du Rassemblement national et de ses alliés en tête, en leur permettant d'accéder au second tour dans une écrasante majorité de circonscriptions, les Français ont fait naître un espoir sans précédent dans tout le pays. Je veux leur exprimer ma gratitude et je les appelle à rester mobilisés dans un ultime effort dimanche 7 juillet prochain. Le vote qu'ils exprimeront dimanche prochain est l'un des plus déterminants de toute l'histoire de la Ve République. À l'évidence et au regard des résultats, le camp présidentiel, encore largement désavoué aujourd'hui, n'est plus en mesure de l'emporter. Et le score élevé de l'extrême gauche soulève des inquiétudes majeures. Désormais, le choix est clair et 2 chemins s'offrent à la France. D'un côté, l'alliance du pire, celle du nouveau Front populaire rassemblé derrière Jean-Luc Mélenchon, qui conduirait le pays au désordre, à l'insurrection et à la ruine de notre économie. De l'autre, l'Union nationale, que j'ai l'honneur de conduire aux côtés de Marine Le Pen, d'Éric Ciotti et de nos alliés.
Real quick, this is Jordan
Cette alliance
Bardella. He is the
inédite,
president of the
motivée par
right-wing
l'intérêt
National Rally
national,
Party. If
est
they get a
désormais
majority
l'unique rempart
in next week's
républicain et
second round,
patriote
he would
qui
become
peut faire
prime
gagner la
minister,
France,
just 28 years
protéger
old.
nos institutions, rétablir la sécurité, décréter la paix fiscale et défendre le travail. Cette extrême gauche dangereuse
Cupcake from France says he is bashing Macron centrists and the left-wing party.
et à l'attitude inacceptable. Elle propose ouvertement dans son projet de désarmer la police, d'ouvrir grand les vannes de l'immigration, d'abolir la loi de lutte contre les squats, ainsi que la loi de lutte contre le séparatisme islamiste. Désormais sans limite morale, injurieux à l'égard des institutions et de tous ceux qui pensent différemment d'eux, M. Mélenchon et ses amis font courir à notre nation un péril existentiel. J'appelle donc ce soir tous les Français attachés à leur liberté, au redressement de la France, à me rejoindre pour amplifier la dynamique et faire gagner l'union nationale face à ceux qui entendent nous diviser, abîmer l'ordre public et bafouer nos valeurs. Dimanche prochain, si les électeurs nous accordent une majorité absolue pour redresser le pays, j'entends être le Premier ministre de tous les Français, à l'écoute de chacune et de chacun, respectueux des oppositions, ouvert au dialogue et soucieux à chaque instant de l'unité de la nation. J'entends être le Premier ministre du quotidien, celui qui placera dans ses grandes priorités la défense du pouvoir d'achat, le rétablissement de l'ordre et de la sécurité partout sur le territoire et bien sûr la reprise en main de notre politique migratoire. J'entends être un Premier ministre de cohabitation, respectueux de la Constitution et de la fonction du Président de la République, mais intransigeant sur la politique que nous mettrons en œuvre au service de la France et au service des Français. 7 jours nous séparent désormais d'un choix historique, et je souhaite que cette campagne de second tour puisse se déployer dans un climat apaisé, honnête.
Again, this is Jordan Bardella from the right-wing National Rally Party, which has done very well today. He could be prime minister if the National Rally does well enough next week in the second round.
De vos libertés et de notre devise républicaine, celle qui unit tout le peuple de France dans une même promesse, liberté, égalité, fraternité. Le temps est venu de porter à la tête du pays des dirigeants.
Cupcake says he's now making promises what he will do if he's elected prime minister next week.
Autant qu'ils aiment la France. Dimanche prochain, la victoire est possible et l'alternance est à portée de main. La France et la République doivent l'emporter. Soyons unis, soyons rassemblés, soyons mobilisés pour le changement. Vive la France et vive la République.
So that was Jordan Bardella of the right-wing National Rally Party, the far-right National Rally Party making big gains today. So I just wanted to emphasize the right wing has not been in control of the government in France since World War II. They could take control if they do well enough next week in the second round. They need 289 seats to have an absolute majority in the lower house. I'm looking at an article from the Telegraph UK right now, and they say that I'm guessing it's a pollster, Elabi. Elabi said that they project that the National Rally, right-wing National Rally, could win, and its allies could win between 260 and 310 seats, and they need 289. Whereas Ipsos, which is a polling firm, says that the RN and its allies could win between 230 and 280. So according to those projections, it's just not clear whether the right-wing National Rally will get a majority. And Le Monde, which is a French publication, said, where is it here? I had it here. Hang on. Right here. They said seat projection estimates to be taken with caution, they said. They said several seat projections with fairly wide ranges have been carried out by polling institutions. Some of them say that the right-wing National Rally will have an absolute majority, and some say they won't. And they said these estimates should be taken with caution. And so it's just not clear right now whether the right-wing National Rally will get. Ooh, we got a nice shot of the Eiffel Tower there. It's not clear yet whether the right-wing National Rally will get an absolute majority. Them and their allies will get an absolute majority. But clearly big gains, huge gains for the right wing, the anti-immigration, Eurosceptic, right wing National Rally in this election. So my assumption is that if Macron knew that these were going to be the results 3 weeks ago, my assumption is he would not have called this election. This election did not have to happen until 2027. He called it when the right wing did surprisingly well in the French European Parliament elections. I can't, my guess, again, I'm not an expert at all, but from what I've read, I'm guessing that Macron would not have called this election if he knew that his party was going to lose a large majority of its seats and the right wing was going to get close to a majority. Samuel said Macron did not have a choice. No, that is false. It is completely up to Macron when this election took place. He had to call it by 2027, but he made the choice to call it earlier. That was his choice. He didn't tell many people either he was going to do it. Wow. Tex Bruce says, when will projection transition into more real numbers? So the problem is, in a lot of these seats, there will be no winner today because you had to get over 50% to win today. And in a lot of these seats, you'll have fewer candidates running next week because you got to get 12.5% to run next week. So you'll have like 2 or 3 candidates. And especially where there's multiple candidates running, one or more of them might drop out to benefit some other candidate. So, for all I know, once all the political maneuvering is done, I would assume there'll be a bit better idea of what might happen as we get closer to the second round in a week. But I keep seeing stuff again and again and again, for example, from Le Monde, which is a major French publication, and BBC saying, you just don't know right now. You have to see, there's a lot of maneuvering that's going to take place. Multiple candidates might gang up against, multiple parties might gang up against another party in a particular area. So we'll have to see how the political maneuvering plays out over the next week as we approach the runoff election in a week. Emily Brooke says, I think Macron knew he would lose. Right is rising all over the world. Red Squirrel says, it just seemed like this would be the outcome, and it's strange he didn't anticipate it. Kem says, Macron should have left it alone. By the way, the projection I'm showing you is one of the prominent projections. There are some other projections in terms of percentage, but they're not that different from this one. Now, Shlomo Goldstein thinks that Macron wanted the far right to win, so people will get a gist of what they're about, and then the right will lose the next presidential election. That's what Shlomo thinks. The next presidential election is in 2027. Ellie Cram thinks the world is heading for an absolute disaster. Henry Berg Camp says conservatives are going to get thrown out this week in the UK. So we will be covering the UK election, which is a one-round election. The UK election is on July 4th. We will be covering that. Yes, the Conservatives are supposed to take a beating in that election and have a sound defeat, but we'll see what happens. We'll be covering that on July 4th. Wow. Oh, let me read you something from Sky News that I saw. Sky News said, Sky News had a little analysis. They said our international correspondent, John Sparks, says, this is really, really significant. We are talking about National Rally, a hard right party that has been kept out of power by the political class for many years, doing better than ever before. French President Macron today has urged voters to block the far right in the decisive second round next week. Sky News' Sparks says he doesn't think people will listen to Macron's calls, and Mr. Macron is really suffering when it comes to personal popularity. Oh, what's this? I'm hearing some music here, so I'm going to turn that down. John Sparks from Sky News says, even in Macron's own party, they did not think he had to call this snap election. I think he is in a really, really tight spot. He's got a really big job ahead of him. Ethan Boland says, proud of France. Sky News also says if voters choose an opposition party to be in parliament, like the far-right National Rally, it reduces the president to a ceremonial role. Well, I think in domestic policy it does. No majority in parliament equals no implementing your key reforms. Although I think that they would have a say in blocking his foreign policy initiatives as well. The prime minister in France has the most executive powers apart from defense and foreign policy, says the Sky News, and the prime minister is basically determined by who has the most seats in the lower house, which is what this election is about. Wow. Big doings. Big doings, guys. So we're definitely going to be covering, on July 4th, we'll be covering the UK election. That's a one-round election for all the parliament seats there, at least the House of Commons seats, and that'll determine who the next prime minister is as well. And then on July 7th, we'll be covering the second and final round of this French election, which will determine the next prime minister in France, not the president, but who controls the government and who the next prime minister is. So we're going to be covering that in a week from today. Wow. This is a live shot from somewhere. I don't know where. Reuters hasn't updated it yet. Oh, let me give you a little more analysis. BBC says, will National Rally get an outright majority? So BBC's Hugh Schofield says, no sign of a switchback towards the center. President Macron called this snap vote, hoping that the National Rally right-wing triumph in the European election 3 weeks ago would prove to be fleeting. But the opposite appears to be true, with the far right actually increasing its share of the vote yet again from 3 weeks ago, and now looking set to dominate the next parliament. Although, something to keep in mind, let me just interject here. The far right, the National Rally, right-wing National Rally, was polling in the high 30s. So they didn't do quite as well as they were polling, but they did quite well. The big question, says Hugh Schofield, is whether next Sunday's second round of the election will allow Marine Le Pen and her co-leader Jordan Bardella to get an outright majority, that's 289 seats or more, and thus govern with the legislature clearly behind them. Projections tonight range from 260 to 310. So there is still a lot to play before, and there is already calls from the president himself and others for centrists and left-wingers to vote tactically next Sunday in order to keep the right-wing candidates from winning. Thanks to Gordon Gott for your support. I appreciate that, Gordon Gott. Gordon says lots of eyes on France. Yep. Thanks, Gordon. Hold on one second here, real quick. Give me one moment. One moment here. Take some more comments from you guys. Gordon Gott says this is going to be historic, very interesting. This could be the first time the right wing has run the government in France since World War II. This could be the first far-right government in France since World War II. Reuters says experts say seat projections after first round votes can be highly inaccurate, and especially so in this election. So we just don't know what's going to happen next week. They say, Reuters says, a longtime pariah, outcast, the RN is now closer to power than it has ever been before. Right-wing leader Le Pen has sought to clean up the image of a party known previously for racism and anti-Semitism, a tactic that has worked amid voter anger at Macron, the high cost of living, and growing concerns over immigration. They are an anti-immigration party. Jane Jones says the next big event for France is on July 7th now. Really appreciate all of you guys being with us here today for our coverage of the first round of this election. So we'll definitely be covering it next week. And July 4th covering the UK election. Cheryl Simpson says, I can't see Macron resigning. Macron has said that he is going to stay on definitely until 2027. I believe I've read that a couple times. Thank you again, all of our moderators who have been here. I really appreciate it. We have Ruth Krafasi, who's been here, Danny James, Carms. Very much appreciate all of our moderators. Linda Belk, Larry. I want to thank some more moderators. Thanks also for bearing with me. I know the broadcast sounds a little strange today. The power is out in my studio until tomorrow. It's supposed to get fixed tomorrow. So I'm not in my studio. I'm on my laptop in a different location. So I've just been trying to make this stream work and bring you some sort of live stream today. So I'm glad everything has worked so far. But I do apologize for that. So thanks for bearing with me. Got my wireless mic on and stuff. Hey, thanks, Good Luck Duck. I got that Fire Papa Bear and Surly Dev for moderating over on Twitch. I really appreciate that. Also, thanks to Anonymous Gifter for the gift sub over there on Twitch. I think they still haven't fixed Facebook stars yet. Anonymous Gifter for the gift sub over there on Twitch. Sound doesn't sound that bad, strangely. Thanks to our Facebook mods too. Over on Facebook, we have mods like Kay Lowry Body, Margaret Riley, Christina Neal, Ronald Egnor, Paul Anderson. Thank you. Oh, and thanks to Desi Des. That's really nice of you, Desi Des. I appreciate it. Thanks, Desi Des. I don't know. I don't know why the I can't tell you why the internet outage is happening in the studio and where I live. They're coming to fix it tomorrow. I don't know why it's the case. Something went wrong. It wasn't my fault, but it's some kind of, technical issue. And I also apologize. When they come to fix the internet in the studio tomorrow, I'm going to have to be there and dealing with that. So there might be some news that I normally would cover that I can't cover or have to delay covering until that gets fixed, because I got to be there tomorrow when they come to fix the internet. So I'm hoping, there won't be anything too big at the time, but you never know. So I'll do my best. Red Squirrel says, is the National Rally anti-Semitic, or has it reformed under Marie Le Pen? So from what I've read, I'm not an expert on this, but I've read articles saying that they previously were known for being anti-Semitic, but that's not what they're known for now. Or at least, I think the name got changed. They weren't even the National Rally before. Yeah, there's supposed to be a Trump immunity decision tomorrow morning by the Supreme Court, but I think the internet will be getting fixed at that time. Anyways, we might do a stream on it depending on what the ruling is. We'll see. Civlap says Macron is embracing the possibility of a lame duck end, hopefully not I don't know, how do you pronounce it? Foie gras? Foie gras, is that how you pronounce it? Probably pronouncing that wrong. All right, guys. Well, I think we might be getting to that time when I wrap up this stream. Let me just see if I have anything else I want to mention to you. But very big doings in France politically, guys. The New York Times, by the way, says French far right scores big in a first round of voting. A surprise decision by Macron to hold a snap election appears to have backfired, giving the National Rally a decisive victory. The National Rally now looks very likely to be the largest force in the lower house, although not necessarily with an absolute majority. The result represented a severe setback for Macron after he gambled that his party's stinging defeat to the National Rally in the recent European Parliament election would not be repeated. Mr. Macron's decision to hold the election now, just weeks before the Paris Olympics, astonished many people in France. not least his own prime minister, who was kept in the dark. Macron was persuaded that the dissolution of the National Assembly and elections would have become inevitable by October because his proposed deficit-cutting budget was expected to meet insuperable opposition. There's that as well now. As well, that was a factor, says the New York Times. They say his centrist movement has suffered a severe defeat. They say Macron, New York Times says Macron, in the run-up to the election, tried every threatening specter to warn people off voting for what he called the extremes. The National Rally, with its view of immigrants as second class, and the far-left France unbowed with its anti-Semitic outbursts. But those appeals fell on deaf ears for all his accomplishments, including the slashing of unemployment, says the New York Times, because Mr. Macron had lost touch with the people to whom the National Rally appealed. People felt talked down to by the president, says New York Times. They felt he did not understand their struggles. By the way, a little more background here from the New York Times article about the National Rally right-wing party. They say it was founded a little more than a half century ago as the National Front by Le Pen's father, Jean-Marie Le Pen, and Pierre Bosquet, who was a member of the SS, of the French division of the SS during World War II. It faced for decades an ironclad barrier against its entry into government. This was rooted in French shame. The collaborationist Vichy government during World War II, which worked with the Nazis, had deported more than 72,000 Jews to their deaths. And France was determined never again that it would experiment with an extreme right nationalist government. Marine Le Pen threw her father out of the party in 2015. She renamed the party to National Rally and embraced the smooth-talking and hard-to-ruffle Mr. Bardella as her protege. She also dropped some of her most extreme positions, including a push for France leaving the European Union. So they have been trying to make the right-wing National Rally Party more generally acceptable for the general population in France to vote for it. All right, guys, I think it might be time here. I think it might be time. John Turpin thinks that our viewer John Turpin says the free world that can think for themselves realize that socialism and communism is not what they want. Special thanks to Cupcake and others from France who were watching. Appreciate the translations, Cupcake. Kaltenberg says Marine has brought her party out of the wilderness of the radical right. Is Macron going to speak? What's happening here? I don't know. It's going to be in French anyway, so it's not going to be in English. I'll tell you that. Hang on 1 second here. This is a sound check. If I knew he was going to wait, if I knew he was going to wait for, I don't know. He's not going to speak in English anyway. I assume he's going to speak, but. Let me just check something here. I might wrap up the stream now. We'll see. Yeah, I think we're going to wrap up this live stream right now, guys. Okay. So I really appreciate you joining for our stream. We're going to have coverage next week. A week from today, we will have coverage of the second and final round of this election in France. So we will cover that. We'll also on July 4th cover the UK election. So subscribe, follow Agenda Free TV. I very much appreciate you joining our broadcast today. And also, next week, hopefully by Monday afternoon, the internet will be fixed in the studio and I can use the studio again. I would have had like more graphics and stuff today, but I had to be very careful with just being on my laptop. Okay, so yeah, Macron's not speaking in English anyway. I can't play an English translation of it anyway, even if he does speak, right? So again, very much appreciate you being here. If I have updates for you, I will post them on my X account, which is @Lookner on X. You can follow me there for breaking news updates when we're not on the air, @Lookner on X, which is right. Hold on. I'll show you in a second where it is. Right. There. And thanks, Piero Tarot, for your kind words. And yeah, we'll have more live coverage of those things coming up. And if something else big happens tonight, I'll come on the laptop again and cover it for you. Hey, big thanks to all of our moderators. Thank you so much for being here. Ruth Krafasi, for example, Danny James, really appreciate all of our moderators. Thank you. Richard Williams, all the moderators I thanked earlier, Linda Belk, Larry. Over there on Twitch, good luck, Duck. I got that fire. Papa Bear, certainly, Deb. Thank you. Our Facebook moderators, Kay Larry Body, Margaret Riley, Christina Neal also moderates for us over there, Ronald Egnor. Paul Anderson. No, this was not a presidential vote today. It was not a vote for Macron. It was not a vote for president. Macron's the president. The next presidential vote is 2027. Hey, so, by the way, sign up for our notifications. So we come on the air whenever there's like big news happening. So a lot of times I don't know when that's going to be, but we have a free notification system. You can sign up for our free notifications. The mods will post the link to that in the chat. Sign up for the free notifications through Discord. It's done through Discord. And also you can find the notifications link in the Facebook and YouTube description for this broadcast. Thanks to our Discord mods, by the way. Also, if you click on the notifications link, you can also check out our Discord chat, where you can chat with other Agenda Free TV viewers when we're not on the air. A lot of our viewers like doing that. Thanks to everybody who donated too. That's so nice of you. I hope I thanked everybody who donated. I think I did. Really appreciate that. If you ever want to donate to the channel, your donations are what keeps this channel on the air. If you ever want to donate, you can go to agendafree.tv, agendafree.tv. And thanks also to our Twitch subscribers and our Facebook subscribers and our YouTube members. Really appreciate all of you. Thanks for being subscribers. For example, Wall Street and Shaggy and Mr. Bigley, Huge and Tremendous. All of our subscribers over there on Twitch, thank you. Our Facebook subscribers like Eve Richards, Margaret Riley, Kay Larry Body, Kristen McConnell Gates. Thanks, Facebook subscribers. Any others I'm missing who are in there right now? And our YouTube members, just to name some of them, The Lucky Minute, Teresa Moulton, Jason Razor Motion, Marin Gobra, Evelyn in Maine, William Cromer, J.K. Senar, Relax Mellow, Lois Cox, Red Squirrel 82, Ryan Teasdale. Thanks for being YouTube members. Bristol Boy, Era Moon, Julia Red, Cupcake, Cheryl Simpson, Evelyn in Maine, Lois Cox, Jelly Plane, D Donut, thanks for being members, Desi Dez, Janet Burnett, Lucky Minute, Stormbreaker Chasing, Libelula, Jonathan Morris, All That's Random, Rays, Chem320RU, all of our other YouTube members, thank you. Check one other thing here. Thanks, Red Squirrel 82 for the donation, by the way. I think I missed that earlier. Thank you. All right, guys, I am going to wrap this up. So appreciate you being with us here for our live coverage of the first round of the French election. We will have the second round next week. We'll have coverage of that a week from today. UK election coverage July 4th, and any big news that happens. Oh, no, the headline's all messed up. Oh, no. The headline is messed up. Well, too bad. I didn't realize the headline was messed up here because we haven't been on this camera angle. So unfortunately, the headline got messed up. I'll fix it before we finish. Not that anyone cares. I don't even know if I can anymore. I think that's it. I'm going to fix it before we finish. That's what it should be right there. I can't even fix it. It's all everything's falling apart. I'm glad the broadcast is still on the air. Okay, there we go. I fixed it. All right, guys, I fixed the headline. That is it for now. Thanks for bearing with me while I had to be on my laptop for this stream. Hopefully the internet gets fixed like it's supposed to tomorrow in the studio. So really appreciate it. Thanks, guys, for being here. Thanks for letting me read your comments on the air and for participating in the chat and for watching the broadcast. And we'll see you soon with more live breaking news coverage right here at Agenda Free TV. I don't even know if I can get to the final graphic now. Everything's kind of falling apart. So I may have to, I'm going to give it a second. Let's see if the final graphic pops up. I might just have to end the, oh, there we go. Okay. We'll see you guys.